Welcome to this special edition of the Real Deal Podcast on the Monday, snowy Monday here on the East Coast, especially in the DMV. I'm your host, Cyril Gerald-Quinn, on this 757th episode of the Real Deal Podcast. Right, that's right, 757. Not too far from 800. Be coming up probably in probably in a couple months, about 3 or 4 months. About 3 or 4 months. So looking forward to that. Lot to do in the world of sports and pop culture, but we're going to begin. Of course, I have to begin, and probably will come close to ending with one John Chaney, the legendary coach from Temple University, who of course passed away on Friday. Chaney, if you're somebody who grew up in the Philadelphia area or outside the Philadelphia area, which I did, in the suburbs about 25, 30 minutes away, you grew up on the likes of John Chaney. You grew up on the likes of, Carter and Sanborn in terms of the radio. You grew up on, Philadelphia, again, was basically a hop, skip, and a jump away from where I lived, in Marsville, Pennsylvania, Trenton, New Jersey. And, John Chaney was and always will be an institution amongst himself. We could talk about the wins. He won a lot of games, of course, 741, which, puts him, somewhere in the, top, 50, top 60 all time as far as wins, and, the Elite Eights and all the A-10 championships, and what he did for the program, what he did for Temple basketball, just reestablishing them to national prominence when he came in '82, but really wouldn't do much justice to zero in on or even give a lot of attention towards what he did in between those white lines in terms of coaching. This was a man who saved lives, and in particular, the lives of a number of African American men, African American boys who came to him as a boy and graduated as men, or left Temple University as men. And he gets to Temple in '82, coming off 10 years at Chaney State, in which he won a Division II national championship. Of course, he coached there for 10 years alongside the legendary C. Vivian Stringer. And you think about, again, you think about Philadelphia institutions and all the history that the city of Philadelphia has, in not just sports, but just in culture, in music, film, whatever, pop culture, whatever, in any walk of life, medicine. And, John Chaney is, you think of Philadelphia, John Chaney is probably one of the top things you think about when you think about the city of Philadelphia. He was Philadelphia. You're talking about somebody who coached middle school in Philadelphia. He coached middle school, he coached high school, he coached college in Philadelphia. He played in Philadelphia. He was a very good player. Obviously a very good player. And if it wasn't for, just basically being born too early, he would have played in the NBA. But he is somebody who just they don't make them like that anymore. They just don't in college basketball, in sports period. They don't make guys who care more about others than they do about wins and losses. And sure, Chaney wanted to win. He was a fierce competitor, would fight you, ask John Calipari, or try to fight you, and took no shit from no one. But more importantly, he was about developing, and bringing along black men and saving black men. He grew up without a father, so he could relate to a few of his players who um, grew up or came to Temple University, not having that father figure. And out of all the jobs that he could have probably taken, out of he took a job. He took a job that was not going to be easy. When he came to Temple University, Temple has a rich basketball history, but remember, McGonigal Hall is like a high school gym. When he came to Temple, it was a high school gym. You're trying to recruit. Temple was a commuter school in the 80s, and really didn't become a school where people wanted to stay on campus. I would say basically probably until I got there in the late to mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, to be honest with you, when they started building dorms, and the Liacouras Center came along in I think like 96 or 97. And then, Liacouras Center happened mainly because of John Chaney and the prominence that he brought with what was going on the court for Temple basketball. He coached most of his career having to, not having the greatest, let's be honest, the greatest of resources as far as, recruiting at a commuter school, McGonigal looking like a high school gym. Yeah, he would get an All-American every 4 or 5 years, a McDonald's All-American, but for the most part, he had players. He wanted the stories. He wanted tough guys. He wanted guys from homes that were that had rough situations. He wanted the players who were fatherless. He gravitated to those guys. And again, they're like, no amount of victories will ever compare to the impact that he had on countless players and coaches and people who came into contact with them. And Chaney, listen, Chaney was a straight shooter. Chaney was not without his flaws, as we all are. His career did not end it didn't particularly end particularly well. Those last couple of years, probably retired 2 or 3 years too late, to be honest with you. But it happens. You see a lot of coaches, who are lifers, and he was in essence a lifer. Then retired. Retired in 06. So he coached into his 70s or late 60s, early 70s. But again, his impact is about, to me, is about off the court. It is strictly, to me, is about off the court. To take on that type of job, to take on to put that pressure on yourself, to where you are not here. You want to win games, but more importantly, you want to make sure that these young men walk out of Temple University as men and as productive men in society, and as men who could lead families, lead lead other men down the road in terms of generations down the road. That was his goal. That was his passion. The basketball was just something that he just happened to be great at in terms of coaching. But he was a leader of men. So and it goes without saying, and you hear this a lot of times when a legendary figure passes away or somebody of note passes away, there will never be another. Well, I think it's very safe to say, and I feel confident in saying that there will never be another John Chaney. There'll never be another John Chaney. He again, you hear about all his, all his players talked about that tough love and talked about, and you hear this a lot with players about, they get it, they don't really get it until after they've graduated or after they've developed, um, after over the course of time in which they got some life skills and got some more life experience under their belt to where they fully understand what he was trying to do for them, or what, or why he was so tough on them. Like, and again, you know having lost, our rest in peace Coach Colin a couple years back. I didn't necessarily get along with my high school coach during the time that I played for him, but it wasn't until, again, I became an adult, became a man, fully understood, like, yeah, I understood what he was trying to accomplish, and and the things that he would say resonated years later. And I think that certainly was the case with many, if not all, of John Chaney's players. And again, that time, and I came along perfect timing, um, in regards to when I got to Temple University, and when he was still at the top of his game. Some of those moments where, you beat Cincinnati with Kenyon Martin, number one ranked Cincinnati, and we run out in the middle of the streets like, like crazy 19, 20-year-old college kids that we were, or you beat Michigan State with Mateen Cleaves and Morris Peterson, and you rush the floor, or you beat Cincinnati, or you beat Maryland. Some of those victories that they had were, will be always, will be lifelong memories for me, to be honest with you. And it was, he was the number one reason for that. So this guy, this man was a coach's coach. I'm surprised that he wasn't. I'm surprised that he never didn't return to coaching in elementary school or something. It just seemed like he was bound to just finish his be coaching for the rest of his life. But of course, he had, of course, later on in years, he got up there in age, had failed health, had some health issues. But without regards to that, lived a full life, and you live to you get to 89, you've gotten your money's worth. You get 89 years on this earth. I would sign up for 89 years right now. But he certainly will be missed. He certainly is, a legend, an icon, a Philadelphia hallmark, to say the least. So John Chaney, Mr. Al, Mr. Temple, and just a absolute one of a kind. Definitely made the world a better place with his presence. Couple of real thoughts. Of course, you had the big trade in the NFL with the Rams and Lions. Jared Goff going to Detroit. Matthew Stafford to going to Los Angeles. The Lions also get 2 first-round picks, 2022 and 2023, and a third-round pick in 2021. So you get a nice haul. You get a great haul if you're the Lions. You wasn't going nowhere with Stafford anyway. That had ran its course. But this is more about the Rams. The Rams, of course, could care less about a first round pick. They haven't drafted in the first round in over 7 years. They are clearly trying to win it now. They're clearly telling you that the difference between them winning a Super Bowl and being just a fringe playoff team is Jared Goff. And if you're the Rams, this is your thinking. You're like, hey, you're thinking to yourselves, if we had Matthew Stafford 2 years ago, we would have beat the Patriots. That is their thinking. That is how down they were on Jared Goff when he left out here. I've never seen a quarterback get shitted on by an organization on the way out the door as much as Jared Goff did with the Rams. I mean, this trade had to happen. There was no way that Goff could come back next year on that team. I don't think that relationship could have been repaired between Goff and the franchise, and it went bad quickly. And I mentioned this, to Robert Sapp when we were talking about the playoffs and talking about the Rams and the Packers. All you need to know was the fact that Goff, thumb was healthy, and the fact that and I forgot the quarterback's name, that guy would have started against Green Bay had he been healthy. He would have definitely started against Green Bay. I forgot the quarterback's name, the backup. I think Wofford. Yeah, Wofford would have started for sure against Green Bay. There's no two ways about it. Had he been healthy, of course he got hurt in the. Of course, he was hurt in the wild card game against Seattle, but there's no question that Wofford would have started that game if he had been healthy. They were completely done with Goff. They couldn't move him fast enough. And now, I think moving forward, what you're going to see, you've seen Goff, you've seen what's happened to Goff and Wentz. Those are the two top picks in 2016, Goff and Wentz. And they both got paid earlier. They both got paid relatively early. I think you're going to see a change in the NFL with these teams kind of not having that quick trigger on paying these quarterbacks before they have to. I definitely think that is coming in the future, in the very near future. So I think you're going to have to be, a surefire Patrick Mahomes. You're going to have to be on that level or somewhere close to that level in order for a quarterback to get paid early. Because it certainly has not worked out with Wentz or with Goff. Again, I don't blame the Rams for making this move whatsoever. The Rams are in win now mode. They have a championship defense. They, need to tweak that offensive line, rebuild that running game. They have enough weapons on the outside. That's not a problem. It's just a matter of them. It's just a matter of can Matthew Stafford be the difference between them being a consistent playoff team versus being a Super Bowl contender. Now, a lot of people love this trade for the Rams. A lot of people I've heard a couple people even say that Rams are the clear-cut favorites in the AFC next year. I'm not going to go that far. I think there will be amongst the favorites next year with Stafford. I think Stafford, fits with that offense, fits with McVay. And I definitely think it's an upgrade. But we're going to find out next year we're going to find out about McVay as well next year in terms of whose fault was it that the Rams have kind of went backwards since they went to the Super Bowl. Was it McVay or was it Goff? Because they go out there next year and get, don't make the playoffs or go out there and get put out, in the wild card round, something like that, then we can start. Then you seriously have to start questioning Sean McVay. I'm not gonna put all the struggles of the Rams on Jared Goff. McVay, definitely teams have definitely called to his offense. Now, again, according to the Rams, basically, Goff didn't allow them to do some of the things that he wanted to do. I don't completely buy all of that, but certainly one thing for sure, Stafford is an upgrade, and this is a trade that I would have made as well. There also were some reports that they offered Green Bay Goff and for Rodgers and some picks as well that they offered that they made a run at Aaron Rodgers. Of course, Green Bay denies that. I would not be surprised if that was the case. That would make certainly perfect sense for you to try to get Aaron Rodgers. Just make the call. If you say no, if Green Bay says no, then so be it. But just you have to make that call considering how Green Bay season ended. So this is the first of the quarterback dominoes. Have a feeling Deshaun Watson will be traded next. And Houston is asking for basically everything outside of the, Houston basically is as seemingly is going to ask for everything, not nailed down, which they should for a 24-year-old quarterback who hasn't reached his prime yet, who's already established himself as one of the better young quarterbacks in the league. There's not enough that they can't ask for, and that team should be willing to give up to get that guy. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, over the weekend, the big news in regards to quarterbacking, a rare quarterback for quarterback trade. Have been about 4 or 5 years since two quarterbacks have been traded for each other. So this one made all the sense in the world. I think Goff is a decent player. I don't think Goff will ever be a superstar, but I think you can get to the playoffs with Goff. We'll see how he develops in Detroit. I don't have high expectations for him in Detroit because there's not a lot there. They got a new coach. We'll see. Of course, they got a new coach. We'll see how that works out. But to me, the story is this is way more about the Rams than anything else. I understand that today is the official first day of Black History Month, and I have it written down here. Black History is not a month; it is a lifestyle. It's a way of life. You want to put it that way. And listen, I go back and forth with Black History. I understand, being in education as long as I have been, I understand that you want to discuss it with the kids, that you want the kids to celebrate it. But we also want to understand that that Black History is every single day, and that we should not just zero in on 1 month to celebrate it and ignore it the other 11 months. It's kind of like I kind of go back and forth with it. Just keep that same energy for the entire year. Just keep that same energy for the entire year, because one month doesn't do Black History any justice whatsoever. There are not enough months to celebrate all the Black history and culture and contributions that African Americans have made to society and this world. It's just not enough. So that to me would be the next step. Black culture should be celebrated every month. There should be a theme every month in regards to Black culture. So just keep that in mind as we go through this month of February. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast, episode 756 or 757. I will see you next time. As always, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Real Deal Podcast. This episode will be up before the night is up. Before the night is over. I will see you next time. Enjoy your week. I'm out.